Hey guys, it's Gote here. Before I start the video, I want to please say that if you're not already subscribed, do that, as well as leave a like and a comment at the end of the video. If you have any stories of your own, please do not hesitate to send them to me by my personal email linked in the description below, and I'll be sure to include them in one of my future videos. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. So, a friend of mine had a pretty crazy ex. They once lived together and had a pet cat, but started getting into arguments and eventually had to break up. While moving out, I believe they were arguing on who got to keep the cat, even though my friend was the one who originally bought it. After parting ways, the girl emailed him saying that she is suing him because she is claiming that the cat was hers. My friend had to get a lawyer and everything. She eventually backed out of the whole thing, but damn, that bitch was crazy. When my fiance's ex, who he originally had a kid with, found out I was pregnant with him, she texted him that he should convince me to give it up for adoption because it probably wasn't even his. Then, when that failed to yield a reaction, she took a screenshot of the sonogram I posted on Facebook and sent it to him next to the shot of her daughter's sonogram to show how different they looked as proof that he wasn't the father. I don't know what goes through people's minds sometimes, but that was completely unwarranted. I dated this one guy for almost 3 years. This one day, I found a second cell phone in his room with only one phone number, incoming and outgoing calls, but a different area code, so I called the number. I explained who I am and tell her that I am not an enemy and I needed some answers. She confessed to me that she has, in fact, been dating my boyfriend for about 5 years, although she has never met him. She met him in a cybersex chat room. Remember when those things used to be a thing? While she was investigating him for pedophilia, but turned out he was not a pedophile, but just a pervert who liked cybersex. They began a relationship 5 years ago. That means I was the other woman. Anyway, she tells me that she knows about me and she's going to finally meet him and move in together. They spent Valentine's Day together on the phone, both ordering takeout meals and pressing play on the same DVD on the phone together. I noped out of there as quickly as I could. I told her that she would not have to worry about me being the other woman any longer, and I would gladly bow out of that crazy town, and I hope they are really happy together. So my crazy ex got me pregnant, and I was scheduled for an abortion. I was only 17, so he agreed to come with me because I didn't want anyone else to know. It was a complete accident. I was on the pill at that time and still don't know what happened. He was my first real boyfriend and it happened 2 months after losing my virginity. The morning of the procedure, he didn't show up. Okay, except when it was all done, I went onto Facebook and he had posted a status something like, "When your ex pretends to be pregnant to get you back, laughing face." We had mutual friends who were all commenting that I was a crazy blah blah, and I was faced with the option of ignoring it and having everyone think I was some crazy girl, or defending myself publicly to friends and family about something traumatic that I just went through. Up until the day of, he was sympathetic, and I even peed on a test in front of him. I ultimately couldn't bring myself to talk about it yet, so I ignored it and deleted Facebook for over about 2 years. I also didn't date again until my 20s because of it. Over the years, it came up several times through rumors and friends of friends. I even had one guy refuse to date me because of my crazy ex persona. He later went to prison for beating the shit out of another girl and ended up killing himself in there. I'm never gonna get the chance to defend myself, and there are people who still think I'm a nutjob to this day. So my ex and I dated in high school my freshman year of college. It was more like a friendship to me. We never kissed or did anything physical other than holding hands and just generally hanging out a lot. He was always deeply in love with me, but it was more like an obsession that I didn't really reciprocate. One day when he fell asleep while we were watching a movie on his laptop, I had a strange gut feeling to do some snooping. On his desktop, there was a folder with my initials on it. I opened it and there were about 400 pictures and videos of me. They were all taken unbeknownst to me. They were all mostly of my legs and crotch area, but with clothes on. Pictures were taken elsewhere, like public places, like at restaurants or under the table, in my car, at school, at our houses, etc. All while I had no clue. Like I mentioned earlier, we never did anything physical. We were both virgins. Then it hit me. He always had his iPod Touch on him, and it always seemed like he was playing games on it, or something else. That's how he must have taken these pictures. At the bottom of the folder, there were new videos that were recent at the time. I played them, and somehow the footage came from inside my dorm room closet. I always went in there to change right after I took a shower, and he knew my routine. I go into my dorm closet and find a hole where he would put the camera or iPhone. It was 4 a.m. when I found out all of this, and I guess it hadn't hit me yet because I was so tired and just knocked out. Then I woke up, realizing what I had just found and how serious it all was. I called my best friend. She came over to the dorm and I showed her. Both of us cried on my bed for a while. I had never felt so violated in my entire life. Later that day, a small group of my closest friends helped me confront him. I told him I found what was on my laptop. He looked at me like a deer in the headlights. He started crying, saying, "I tried to stop, but I couldn't help myself." He then ran out the door and sat on the bench outside my dorm, crying with his head down for hours. I can see it from my window. After that, he stalked me. At my job, he would be outside when I got out at 10 p.m. and watch me from his car. I had a new boyfriend by then, my first real love, and he would be with me to protect me from my ex. He also tried to kill my new boyfriend with a bat when we were all out at the same house party together. My friends locked me and my new boyfriend in a room so my ex couldn't get to us. I could hear him trying to break into the room and swinging the bat and breaking stuff in the house while others were holding him back. Then he disappeared at the party, and everyone went to look for him. They found him outside on a porch, in a fetal position, rocking back and forth and crying. A year later, even after losing his virginity to someone else and me being with my new boyfriend for a while, he told some mutual friends that he didn't care about any girl and that he just loved me forever. To this day, everyone I'm close with knows that if I were murdered, they'd know who the prime suspect would be. I have so much fucking stuff on this one crazy ex, and all of this is the same person. I once caught her in a lie, and instead of admitting that she cheated, she claimed that she was raped. Then she later moved in with said rapist. She would break up all the time for no reason. She had no limit to the bottomless vessel inside her which required male attention. She did and still does fabricate drama for the purpose of the argument. Then she likes to act like you are the crazy one because you are being upset. Fortunately, I have a child with this woman. She once called Child Protective Services on me and alleged sexual abuse because my 4-year-old daughter asked to sleep in my bed one night. Oh yeah, she also told our little girl to go find a new mommy because I don't want to be yours anymore after my daughter had expressed excitement about seeing me one day. Last night, her and her husband made my daughter cry right outside my front door because they were ordering her to surrender the plastic cell phone toy I had said she could take home. She was really excited about that toy actually, and that she wasn't allowed to keep it because it came from me. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I don't know what hurts more, the personal attacks or the attacks on my daughter. I had a boyfriend I dated for 3 years during high school. When I was in my mid-20s, I'd moved out of state and he called my mom to try and get in touch with me again. I found it really sweet the first week and liked catching up with him over the phone. However, a few red flags started to appear. Some of the things he was telling me about his job and personal life weren't adding up. For example, he said he did X work but wasn't actually certified or schooled to be in that line of work. He was living with his dad, which I assumed was because his mom had recently died and because he traveled as a part of his job, and that he would call me from his home's landline. One day he calls me and tells me, I was in my city 12 hours away from where he lived last night and was shot at by the Mafia gang members. I laughed nervously. We spoke last night and you called me from your dad's landline. He laughed and changed the subject. In the following days, he made more and more outrageous claims, and I started to decline his calls. He finally emailed me, asked why I wasn't really talking to him all that much. I admitted I was concerned by his outrageous claims and asked if he was suffering from a schizoaffective disorder. In retrospective, I probably shouldn't have asked this question. He completely blew up and wrote back a slur of insults calling me a liar, whore, slut, etc., and that was the last time I would ever hear from him again. A year later, I ran into an old teacher who knew his family and I mentioned the odd encounter. He replied, yeah, he had some problems after his mother died. I don't know, part of me wants to be sad, but I don't think anything can justify what he did. My ex-fiancé was a real piece of work. He did a lot of emotional abuse, even in the good moments of our relationship, including but not limited to breaking my shit when he was angry, using BDSM to take out his frustrations on me, once hitting me while I was blackout drunk, hyper-aggressive / dangerous driving, controlling my appearance and friends, and gaslighting. When we broke up, it was because he hit me again while he was drunk. He claims not to remember either instance and says I made them both up. And after I finally found the strength to end it with him, it got so much worse. Some highlights are him spitting in the motorcycle helmet my new boyfriend bought me, him spitting on me, him threatening to kill me and my new boyfriend if he ever saw either of us at my work, him refusing to communicate on my terms to get me off our lease so I could cut ties with him telling me to kill yourself like your uncle did while I was suicidally depressed at the time, him stealing one of my paychecks and him hiding little papers that had the word whore on them all over my pack stuff. I found one like a year later. He claimed all of that was because of a panic attack, but what kind of panic attack lasts long enough for you to break into someone's room, find creative spaces to hide a bunch of bits of paper, write out those bits of paper, hide them, and then put things back in order so I wouldn't notice? Anywho, he then moved back up north and convinced a bunch of my friends that I was the abuser, not him, so I lost a bunch of people in the process. Then again, they took the side of someone with no proof because he was more convenient to keep as a friend, instead of the side of someone with an entire file of threatening texts, texts admitting what he'd done, etc. So, fuck him. So my ex and I ended up breaking up, and after a couple of weeks, she comes over to my house and lets herself in at 2 a.m. The door was unlocked because of college reasons. Makes herself a drink, and comes and finds me playing Xbox in my living room. She was already drunk. Says she wants to get back together. I say that's a bad idea and that she should probably go. She gets upset but eventually leaves. She comes back around an hour later with a destroyed phone, asks if I think it can be fixed. I say no again, but ask what happened to it. She says she pulled over in a parking lot after she left, threw up on the ground and ran it over a few times because she was so mad I wouldn't get back together with her. She actually ended up trying to blame the broken phone on me and says she'll forgive me if I get back together with her. I say hell no, she needs to leave. She says not until we get back together. I lock myself in my room. She falls asleep on the couch. She was gone when I woke up. Never heard from her again. I'm pretty sure that was the alcohol talking for the entirety of that night. I had a guy I knew for 14 years and dated for 3 years break up with me over text while I was in another city visiting my dying grandfather. I told him the doctors are saying my grandfather won't make it through the night. He didn't. And my ex's response was, we should see other people. When I got back into town, he refused to acknowledge that he had even broken up with me and refused to leave my apartment. Nobody would pay him to sit in my apartment for 16 hours a day playing World of Warcraft. So I told him I was going to work and wouldn't come back until he had moved out. That night I stayed at my friend's house and my phone died. When I finally was able to plug my phone in, I had 46 text messages. My ex had called the police, my mom, my dad, my grandma, and my work, saying I hadn't come home for 3 days and he was concerned. Needless to say, we don't talk anymore. Hey guys, it's Gote here. Thank you so much for listening. Crazy X stories are quite quite the fascinating subject for a lot of people, especially for me, especially for everyone. But if any of you have any stories you would like me to read on future videos, please send them to me via my personal email, linked in the description below, and I'll be sure to do that. Stay safe out there. Thank you again, and I will see you mates in the next episode.